On a humid Texas summer night, two couples embark on what should be a peaceful lakeside vacation. But beneath the surface of laughter and barbecues, a dark obsession is growing. When Sarah Miller vanishes without a trace at 10:47 p.m., her husband Jake begins a desperate search, unaware that his best friends, Marcus and Linda Chen, are hiding a terrible secret. This true crime story unravels a shocking tale of betrayal, obsession, and murder that will leave you questioning how well you really know the people closest to you. The clock on the cabin wall read 10:47 p.m.
Honey, are you here?
When Jake Miller realized his wife was gone. Sarah. His voice echoed through the empty rooms of the lakeside rental. Sarah. The screen door hung open, swaying gently in the warm Texas breeze. Beyond it, Lake Travis stretched out like black glass under the moonlight. Somewhere in the darkness, crickets sang their endless song. Jake's phone trembled in his hand as he dialed 911. Behind him, his best friend Marcus Chen stood in the doorway, his face pale in the dim light. Marcus's wife Linda appeared beside him, her expression unreadable. "We should search the property," Marcus said quietly. "Maybe she just went for a walk." But Jake knew better. Sarah wouldn't have left without telling him. Not at this hour. Not without her phone, which still sat on the kitchen counter, its screen dark and silent. As the wail of distant sirens began to pierce the night air, none of them could have imagined how this vacation had turned into a nightmare. But to understand what happened that night at 10:47 p.m., we need to go back to where it all began. Hey folks, if you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and smash that like. Drop a comment below telling me what country you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. The Houston heat was brutal that Thursday morning when the two couples loaded up Marcus's Ford F-150 for their summer vacation. Jake Miller, a construction foreman with sun-weathered skin and kind eyes, hefted the last cooler into the truck bed. "That's everything," he announced, wiping sweat from his brow. "About time." Sarah Miller laughed, her blonde ponytail swishing as she climbed into the back seat. At 32, she had the easy smile of someone who'd never met a stranger. "I've been dreaming about this trip for months." Marcus Chen slid behind the wheel, his architect's hands gripping it with precision. He'd always been the organized one, the planner who made sure every detail was perfect. His wife Linda, a high school English teacher with sharp features and observant eyes, settled into the passenger seat. 3 hours to paradise," Marcus said, starting the engine. The drive to the cabin near Lake Travis should have been filled with excitement. And it was for everyone except Marcus. While the others laughed and reminisced about their college days at UT Austin, Marcus's eyes kept drifting to the rearview mirror, watching Sarah's reflection. It had started innocently enough 6 months ago. A compliment here. A lingering glance there. But somewhere along the way, Marcus's admiration had curdled into something darker. He found himself thinking about Sarah constantly, her laugh, her hair, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. He'd tried to stop. God knows he'd tried. But the more he saw her at their weekly dinners, at birthday parties, at barbecues, the worse it got. It wasn't love. It was possession. An obsession that had burrowed into his brain like a parasite. What Marcus didn't know was that Linda had noticed. A wife always knows. The rental sat on a secluded bluff overlooking Lake Travis, surrounded by cedar trees and Texas live oaks. It was exactly what they'd hoped for, a 2-bedroom cabin with a wraparound porch, a fire pit, and a private dock stretching into the water. "This is perfect," Sarah exclaimed, rushing to the porch railing. The afternoon sun turned her hair to gold. Marcus watched her from the doorway, his jaw tight. That first evening passed peacefully. They grilled steaks, drank cold beer, and talked about everything and nothing.
Said, "That's not my
Jake
dog."
told stories about his latest construction projects. Linda discussed her students' latest antics. Sarah planned a morning hike. Marcus smiled and nodded, but inside the obsession was screaming. He wanted her. He needed her. And the more he watched Jake's arm around her shoulders, the more a terrible certainty grew in his mind. If he couldn't have Sarah, no one could. Late that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Linda found Marcus on the porch. "I know," she whispered. Marcus's blood turned to ice. "Know what?" "About her." "About Sarah." Linda's voice was flat, emotionless. "I've known for months." "Linda, I don't." She held up a hand. I'm not stupid, Marcus. I see how you look at her. I've watched you spiral. She paused, her next words barely audible. And I've decided something. If you're going to throw away our marriage for an obsession, then she doesn't deserve to have the life I can't. Marcus stared at his wife, seeing her clearly for the first time in months. The bitterness, the rage, the hurt he'd caused had twisted her into something he barely recognized. What are you saying? He asked. Linda leaned close. I'm saying that if you do something about your little problem, I'll help you. We'll be bound together forever. In a way that's even stronger than marriage. It was insane. It was evil. But as Marcus looked into his wife's eyes, he realized she meant every word. The third day of vacation was the hottest yet. They spent the afternoon on the lake, swimming and lounging on the dock. Sarah was radiant in her blue swimsuit, water droplets glistening on her skin. Marcus couldn't take his eyes off her. That evening, Jake suggested s'mores by the fire pit. As darkness fell and the flames crackled, the conversation turned to ghost stories and old legends. I need to grab more marshmallows from the cabin, Sarah announced around 10:30 p.m. I'll come with you, Linda offered quickly. No need. I'll just be a minute. Marcus stood. Actually, I could use some fresh air. Mind if I walk with you? Sarah shrugged. Sure, why not? Jake barely looked up from the fire he was stoking. He trusted Marcus completely. They'd been best friends since freshman year. Marcus was like a brother. That trust would be his greatest regret. Marcus and Sarah walked up the path toward the cabin. Fireflies dancing in the darkness around them. The moon was 3/4 full, casting everything in silver light. Beautiful night, Sarah said, breathing in the cedar-scented air. Yeah, Marcus replied, his heart pounding. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. They reached the cabin porch. Sarah turned to face him, smiling that easy smile he'd grown to crave. And hate. And need. Do you ever think about what could have been between us? The words tumbled out before he could stop them. Sarah's smile faded. Marcus, what are you talking about? In college. Before Jake. We had chemistry. You felt it too, didn't you? Marcus. No. She stepped back. I've never thought of you that way. You're Jake's best friend. You're married to Linda. What's going on? The rejection hit him like a physical blow. All those months of obsession. All those fantasies he'd built up in his mind. They meant nothing. She didn't see him. She'd never seen him. Something inside Marcus snapped. Don't go anywhere, folks. Make sure you've hit that like button and subscribed. The story is about to take a dark turn. Comment below what you think happens next. What happened in the next 60 seconds would be burned into Marcus's memory forever. Sarah tried to walk past him into the cabin. He grabbed her arm. She pulled away, her eyes widening with alarm. Marcus, you're scaring me. You can't just walk away, he said, his voice strange even to his own ears. You can't just let go of me. Sarah's voice rose. She was going to scream. She was going to ruin everything. The obsession that had consumed him for months finally took complete control. Marcus's hands found her throat. Sarah's eyes went wide with shock and terror. She clawed at his hands, gasping for air. But Marcus was strong. Years of working at a drafting table had given him powerful grip strength. He didn't let go. When it was over, Sarah's body lay crumpled on the wooden porch, her eyes staring at nothing. Marcus stood over her, trembling, barely able to process what he'd done. That's when Linda appeared from the shadows near the cabin. I told you I'd help, she said calmly, as if they were discussing weekend plans. Now we need to move quickly. Jake will come looking soon. Linda Chen had always been methodical. It's what made her a good teacher. She broke down complex problems into manageable steps. This was just another problem to solve. The old well, she said. I saw it this afternoon behind the shed. It's boarded up, but we can move the boards. Working together in the darkness, they carried Sarah's body across the property. Marcus felt like he was moving through a nightmare, but Linda was sharp, focused. She'd brought a flashlight. She'd thought ahead. The well was maybe 50 feet deep, long since dried up. They removed the boards, and Sarah disappeared into the darkness with barely a sound. We need to establish an alibi, Linda said, already replacing the boards. We'll tell Jake she went for a walk by the lake. We'll act confused, worried. We'll help him search. Linda, I don't. Her voice was hard. You did this. We did this. Now we see it through together. They returned to the fire pit at exactly 10:42 p.m. Jake was still tending the flames. Where's Sarah? He asked. Forming. Marcus couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sarah's face, heard her gasping for air. He'd killed her. He'd actually killed her. The obsession that had driven him to murder had evaporated the moment she died, leaving only horror in its wake. Linda watched him unravel with cold satisfaction. She'd lost her husband to his obsession long before that night. At least now he was suffering too. On the fourth day, Deputy Martinez returned. We found something, she said. Marcus's heart stopped. The deputy produced an evidence bag containing a man's watch. Marcus recognized it immediately, his watch, the expensive one Linda had given him for their anniversary. He'd lost it the night of the murder. It must have fallen off near the well. We found this near an old well on the property, Martinez said, watching their faces carefully. The boards had been moved recently. The wood showed fresh marks. Jake's head snapped up. The well? Did you check the well? We're bringing in equipment now. It took 2 hours to retrieve Sarah Miller's body from the well. When they brought her up, Jake collapsed to his knees, his howls of grief echoing across the property. Marcus stood frozen, Linda beside him. This was it. This was the end. Deputy Martinez approached them slowly, her hand resting on her service weapon. Marcus Chen, Linda Chen, you're under arrest for the murder of Sarah Miller. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Marcus finally understood what he'd destroyed. Not just Sarah's life or Jake's happiness or his own future. He'd destroyed everything good he'd ever had for an obsession that had burned out the moment it was satisfied. Linda's face remained expressionless as they read her rights. She'd chosen to bind herself to her husband in the worst way possible, as accomplices in murder. Weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. The watch, the forensics, the scratches on Marcus's arms that matched Sarah's DNA under her fingernails. Most damning was Linda's testimony. In exchange for a reduced sentence, she told the truth. All of it. Marcus's obsession. The plan. The cover-up. Marcus Chen was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Linda Chen received 25 years as an accomplice. Jake Miller sold his house in Houston and moved away. Some wounds never heal. The cabin at Lake Travis stood empty for years after. Locals said it was cursed. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was just a place where obsession and betrayal had turned deadly on a warm Texas night. At 10:47 p.m. on that summer evening, Sarah Miller's life ended. But in a way, everyone's lives ended that night. Marcus would spend the rest of his days in a concrete cell, haunted by the woman he'd killed. Linda would carry the weight of her choice forever. And Jake would live with the knowledge that his best friend had murdered the love of his life. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us the worst. Thanks for watching, folks. If this story got to you, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment below telling me what country you're watching from and what you thought of this case. See you in the next one.